Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Dan Hiscock, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Dylan Spivey. Animals have been put to many uses in war, serving as transport, beasts of burden, messengers, protectors, mascots, and pets. They have played an important part in all wars in which Australians have been involved. Famously, of the 136,000 Australian horses sent to the First World War, only one returned. After General Bridges died in May 1915 from a wound sustained at Gallipoli, his favourite horse, Sandy, returned to Australia, eventually finding a home at the Australian War Memorial. While the donkey made famous by Simpson is perhaps the best known example of a beast of burden, mules were in constant demand to carry supplies to the front line. The Camel Corps was formed in the early years of the First World War. By late 1917, the Desert Mounted Corps had some 6,000 camels. The homing ability and navigational skills of carrier pigeons saw them used during the First and Second World Wars. Some were even awarded medals for gallantry. Working dogs were used by the Royal Australian Engineers in 1918, with sappers handling messenger dogs in the trenches of France. Search dogs were used from 1944 after the raising of the 1st Australian Dog Platoon. Mine detection and scout dogs were used in Korea and Vietnam, and explosive detection dogs were used to counter the threat of improvised explosive devices in Afghanistan. During the First World War, many Australians brought animals from home to the training camps in Egypt. When the war ended, they were donated to the Cairo Zoo, and as late as the 1950s, it was said to have had the largest collection of Australian native animals outside of Australia. Since then, a selection of dogs, cats, goats, possums, rams, eagles, monkeys, turtles, and many more have acted as formal or informal mascots for Australian units. Today, on the National Day for War Animals in Australia, we commemorate the deeds and sacrifices of animals in war. This evening we are honoured to acknowledge Joint Secretary Oceania, Ministry of External Affairs, India, Mr Vishwesh Negi, and the accompanying delegation. We also warmly welcome the President of the Australian War Animal Memorial Organisation, Mr Nigel Allsop. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Return and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Service Clubs Association, and we welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. Now, if you're able, I invite you all to please stand and join in the singing of the National Anthem.
All land abounds in
Thank you. If you wish to and you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Flight Sergeant Ernest Harrison. Ernest Harrison was born on the 9th of March 1911 in Cardiff, New South Wales. He was the youngest of 6 sons born to John Alexander Harrison, a butcher, and his wife Anne. When Ernest was a boy, his father abandoned the family, leaving his mother to raise their large family alone. They relocated to the Sydney suburb of Mosman, where Ernest attended the local public school. As a young adult, Ernest briefly studied at the Sydney Technical School before gaining work as a zookeeper. This was his job when the Second World War broke out in 1939. Ernest Harrison enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force on the 10th of October 1941. He trained in wireless air gunnery as well as bombing and was awarded his Air Gunner's Badge in November 1942. He embarked from Melbourne for service in the United Kingdom on the 15th of January 1943. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAAF pilots, navigators, bomb aimers, wireless operators and air gunners who throughout the course of the war joined Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. In April, Harrison joined new recruits at number 10 Operational Training Unit in Abington, where air crew were trained for night bombing missions. In June, he travelled to the Royal Air Force Base Marston Moor, where he joined the number 1656 Heavy Conversion Unit, where he learned to operate the newer, heavier bombers, including the Avro Lancaster and the Handley Page Halifax. Harrison joined his first operational unit, number 161 Squadron of the Royal Air Force in July 1943. Part of the RAF Special Duty Service, the squadron undertook missions of the Special Operations Executive and the Secret Intelligence Service. Their duties included dropping and collecting secret agents and equipment to resistance fighters in Nazi-occupied Europe. The squadron used a variety of aircraft, including Lysanders, Halifaxes, Stirlings, and Hudsons. In Halifax bombers, he served as the air gunner on many of these missions. He and his comrades delivered supplies to resistance fighters and dropping propaganda leaflets over French towns, as well as over Belgium, Holland, and Denmark. On the 10th of November 1943, Harrison and his comrades took off from RAF Thamesford in Halifax on a routine mission over France. Nothing further was heard from the crew, who were eventually listed as missing. The squadron commander wrote to Harrison's mother, "During your son's service here, he has always shown great devotion to duty, and his keenness on his work has always been an inspiration to all ranks. His presence is greatly missed. There is reasonable hope that your son and the rest of the crew may have been taken prisoner, but some time must elapse, however, before confirmation of this. So in the meantime, we must go on hoping for the best." The fate of Harrison and the rest of the crew could not be determined for almost a year. In May 1944, one member of the crew, Flying Officer Pilkington, was discovered as a prisoner in Germany. It was then determined that on the night of the mission, the Halifax pilot had lost control of the aircraft and it had crashed near Brunels, France, killing all those on board except Pilkington. Today, Harrison is buried at Saint-Dizier War Cemetery in France, beneath the words chosen by his mother. His duty, fearlessly and nobly done, ever remembered. Flight Sergeant Ernest Harrison was 32 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flight Sergeant Ernest Harrison, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
lest we forget. We'll leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, the staff and the volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. Wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.